you're going to find out today why I've got wet hair and a coat on. Not a lot of people noticed that yesterday. We're going to do the massey out. While it's damp this morning, we've got the seed drill in the shed. We're going to basically drop the fertiliser out of the front hopper so that we can change the rotor to a smaller rotor, because when we were trying to put a tiny amount of fertiliser on with the oilseed, with the wheat, we couldn't. The rotor was too big inside and it was putting too much fertiliser out, so it was telling us that we needed to speed up, but then we were doing a ridiculous speed. So anyway, we'll change the rotor to one with smaller holes in it, and then it'll meter the fertiliser out a bit slower, because it's run by an electric motor, and electric motors aren't very efficient, turn really slow. So we need a rotor similar to that with not many sort of deep flutes in it. There's another one here which is even smaller still, but that'll be for like oilseed rape seeds. We did like a halfway between the two one, so I think we've got one in the shed. Just taking the fertiliser out now so that we can put a smaller rotor in. And without realising it, kind of bridged in the bottom, so we've got to slid it out, put a new one in, and then just poke the bridge bit out. But anyway, we'll empty it all out and check it now. Put it back in through the mesh. This rotor turns at the bottom of that hopper and basically just meters the seed out like a paddle wheel, but it's too big, so this puts out 500 cc's for so many revolutions. So I'm going to change it to one with smaller holes, smaller flutes, so it's a little bit like a piece of cheese, this one, rather than flutes like that. Hopefully that'll make the seed come out quicker, because the electric motor can only turn at a certain speed. You know, it can change its speed to what it wants, but there's a certain point where it could go too slow and it can't actually turn efficiently. So that's why we changed these rotors. It's a good design, but it's also a bit backwards compared to how the Accord metering units used to work, because they just had a shutter that slid across and basically covered up some of the flutes, so you didn't have to mess around changing these rotors. 939 is here, picking up some wood chip. It's a beast. Should be black though. Just about to fill the sprayer, but it started raining. It's good going onto moist soil pre-emergent spray, but I just don't want it washing away as well, so I'm going to wait and see whether the rain goes off in a bit. The satellite picture does say it is going to go off. Don't know whether anyone remembers, but last year we brought these trees back because they died from somewhere, and we took them out of the plant pots for the landscapers and refilled them with soil and took them back. Well, a few of the other trees have died now, so we're just doing that now. But they've got a mesh on the bottom. Yeah, the lads just went and picked them up with a mini Merlot on the back and brought them back here, so we'll sort them out and take them back to the shopping centre. That tree was never going to grow with that mesh around it though, was it? In clay. Is there even a hole in the bottom?
Yeah.
Is there?
Yeah, what the blue hole is the plate on the side.
Oh yeah. Got a major complaint about the abatement. It's actually quite a big one, to be honest. In all this cab and all this expense, no cup holder. Look at all them pigeons. Eat the horn. It's like a flock of them. Hopefully they're just eating any bits of beans that are spilt and not the wheat that was not quite deep enough. Just spraying now. I don't know if you can notice on the camera, but some of the nozzles are facing sort of backwards and some of the nozzles are facing forwards. And that way then, you don't get any shadowing effect for any lumps or stones. So the spray will go sort of underneath them, if you will, and then that's putting a protective layer on the surface. Then it should stop weed seeds growing, and only the wheat should grow is the plan. To be honest, you can probably see better that way where the sun's not shining. So if the nozzle just went straight down, if there was any sort of like clods that were round, it'd just hit the top of them. Whereas if the jet's on an angle going forwards or backwards, it's basically spraying underneath it over the top of it, and then there's a shadow one side, but then the nozzle that's facing in the opposite direction sprays underneath, so it gives us better ground coverage. We always roll as well before pre-emergent sprays if we can, if we need to, because we want the ground flat. Because imagine we're putting this layer of chemical on, well that's kind of like a layer of paint, and the flatter the surface, the less surface area it's got to go up and down with all the humps and bumps, so the more effective it is. So like when you're painting something, the paint obviously goes further on a smooth surface than it does on a rough surface. So that's partly the reason why we keep it flat for spraying. I'm using the GPS to drive the sprayer, and I'm basically going in the same wheel marks that I sprayed this field off with the other day, which was the same wheel marks as the year before. And we're on, I don't know if you can see properly, you can't maybe in the mirror. basically on the narrow wheels. So I'm just going to put a narrow track there and a narrow track there. Now, we didn't put tram lines in this year with the drill, pigeons, because we decided that the sprayer would be more accurate and then I can put them where I need to be. Anyway, this field, these tram lines are historic, they've always been in this place. Anyway, so the ground's quite solid and compacted where the tram lines are. So my wheels aren't going to cut in at all, so I don't need my big wide flotation tyres on, which people normally do when they go on a seedbed, mainly because the seedbed isn't loose, because we've not had to do any deep loosening, because we didn't want to lose them sort of canals and different things. Also as well, another advantage of no-till, which I never mentioned yesterday, was if we're not disturbing too much of the soil, we're not encouraging weeds to grow. So sometimes after harvest we'll straw rake or we'll work the top surface very shallow so that any weeds will germinate, and then we'll obviously spray them off before we stitch the new crop in. And the new crop doesn't disturb the soil, so if it doesn't disturb the soil, it doesn't encourage weeds to grow. So I think it's important that the machine that sows the seeds that you want to grow shouldn't move any soil, because otherwise you'll encourage other things to grow at the same time. So that's one of the things. A few comments yesterday about people have veg in the rotation. Yeah, no-till and veg don't mix because you've got to do quite intensive cultivations, but generally you will grow them on kinder soils that are a bit more forgiving if you kind of beat them to bits to get a crop of spuds or carrots or whatever it might be. But our soils are quite high in clay content and they don't recover that easily, so it's important for us to try and keep them in a better condition. Sam scared of pigeons. Half of that, I never even got up yet though. Chickens are hiding in the porch. This is the rain as I've just got back to the yard after spraying. This was not forecast, and I just hope it's not going to wash the spray too deep, because I never expected this and I wouldn't have gone spraying it if I'd have known. Literally the gutters can't cope. Just up on the roof because the gutters couldn't cope. We literally just had 10 mil of rain, 5 minutes, and now they're getting it over there. Andrew's brushing the water out the shed. Gutter's not been able to take it, it's overflowed here in this gap, so we're just trying to get all the water out now before it goes underneath the piles. This is the seed that we cleaned that we didn't treat, and its water's flying out the bags. This is the wheat shed, and the gutter keeps flowing that way and it couldn't get out fast enough and then started overflowing and coming into the shed. Anyway, luckily this has got fall in this far bay, so it's not particularly gone into the wheat, it's just sat near the edge. So we're going to brush this out. The shed the other side did the same thing, overspilled. The worst bit was between two piles of grain, so we're pushing that out now, but it might have got the bottom bit damp, but hopefully because everything in there's so dry it won't make much difference. Well, we've just had 10 mil of rain in 10, well the weather station only records to the nearest 10 minutes, but I think we had it in about 4 minutes. 10 mil, which is that everywhere. So if you look at some of these roofs, they're huge. Now these sheds have been up, I think this one's been up since 2010 and that one's up since 2015. They've never done that, so that's the most extreme rain we've ever had. So me worrying about a few minutes ago about whether the sprayer had worked, you know, the main thing is that we've got hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of grain in the shed that we nearly got ruined. Hopefully it stopped just in time, the rain, and we've managed to push it all out the door with Andrew's JCB and everyone on a brush and move stuff. The seed that we, well, the wheat that we cleaned for seed, the bags are absolutely saturated because it was cascading over them. So we've put them in here now, just on this ramp to sort of like dry out, and then we'll move the head out and we'll put them on that drying floor. Hopefully we can save that. I mean, I know it's only just normal wheat seed and we can always put it back through the dryer because it's not dressed, but it's so annoying. This is the drain in the yard, it's that block, it's full of the weighbridge, full of wood chip. I have to keep sticking my hand in because someone keeps spilling wood chip on the yard. See how it's going clockwise down the drain, with the other side of the equator and go anti-clockwise. The fourth emergency service It's not Pete Marquis, it's Andrew on his JCB with the Spalding's brush. We were so lucky then, if you look there, you see where it's come down the wall, and it's where there was no grain other than the clean seed bags. Bill's wheat in the corner here, nowhere near it, and then this is literally just come against the front of the pile. But when you dig in, sort of, you see where the water was flowing, but then we had the JCB in within minutes pushing it out. But if you look, so it's wet there, but if you look here, it's hard to see, it's flowing down. But the floor's bone dry, it's like made its own seal along the edge. So what we'll do is get the rest of the water out now, then in the morning we'll go along and we'll brush all the damp stuff. And if there's only a little bit, we'll just ditch it. If not, we'll put it through the grain dryer. But we were so lucky. Same with that barley as well. It's just touched the front of the pile as it's flown underneath, as it's headed for the door. But that's going to be moved to the other shed anyway, so hopefully that's fine as well. And there's just a little 2-inch barrier around the bottom that we'll just give to the birds. It's so warm, less than an hour later. It's actually dried this floor in here now. Just got a little tiny bit of damp wheat there where it's cascaded a little bit, but the bulk of it come down this wall where there was nothing, which was lucky. But we'll get that wheat scooped up tomorrow and put it through the dryer. Workshop's flooded as well, so we've got the heaters turned on now to dry it out hopefully. So yeah, we just had 40 tonne of water fall to the acre, so 10 mil of water in 5 minutes. That's colossal. That's why we need good drainage. Thanks to everyone that's watching anyway. If you're new subscriber, tell us where you're watching from. Don't forget you can subscribe over here, or you can watch another video there as well. Also, if you've watched to the end, click like. Little bit of a quiz question. Stood behind a baler this morning, there was something written on it. What was written on it? See if you know. Oh, by the way, yesterday, Fent was written on the front of the fast track. And loads of people couldn't spot it, but loads of people could, so I don't know what was going on there. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow.